With us this morning are Martin Samuel from The Times, The Telegraph's Jason Burt and Jack Rosser from The Sun. Jack, let's start with you and let's talk Spurs. Andy Dunn in the Sunday Mirror has done a big splash on De Zerbi's appointment. It's all been too nice at Spurs. They need a coach to rile them, to tell them some home truths and fall out with them. Did the appointment come as a surprise to you?
No, because they've been trying to do it for a very long time. It sounds like they've just about thrown enough money at him to make him finally say yes. I think De Zerbi's been someone that obviously a lot of top Premier League clubs have been looking at for a long time since he came over with Brighton and took them into Europe. He's been someone on Tottenham's list for a while. I think they tried when they turned to Igor Tudor, and that was obviously a mistake. And obviously with all the reporting you read around it is he didn't really want to step into the mess that's been created. He would have waited until the summer. But I think he's the sort of coach, he's a coach that, and Andy mentions it in his piece, that he's a coach's coach. They're all obsessed with him for reasons that they never really tell you why, but they can see it and you can't.
Yeah.
But they all absolutely love him and think he is something quite special. And what he did with Brighton was fantastic. He's incredibly engaging to be around, to deal with in press conferences. The players that have played for him, I think Adam Lallana was on the radio this week, eulogising about him, and worked under Jurgen Klopp for a very long time as well, Lallana. So the way he talks about De Zerbi is worth listening to, and someone that wants to be a coach as well. He certainly won't be too nice to the Tottenham players, although Igor Tudor went in there, told them they couldn't defend, couldn't pass, couldn't attack, and that didn't go too well. So whether this squad is one that's ready for home truths is to be seen. I don't think they've quite got the mental fortitude for that, but as long as he can keep them up, I think he'll be a fantastic and fascinating appointment for the next few years.
Jason, Jack mentions Andy's piece. I'll quote from it. Spurs need an influential manager. They need the brilliant coach that so many of his contemporaries seem to think De Zerbi is. But they also need someone to tell them some home truths, to rile them, to fall out with them even. And De Zerbi has form for falling out with people, which is why the idea of him fulfilling a 5-year deal at Spurs seems a bit fanciful. There is no relegation clause. That's been well publicised. But do you see a world, if they do go down, that De Zerbi is managing Tottenham Hotspur in the Championship?
Well, he's promised to, hasn't he? So, excuse me, sorry. He's promised to, hasn't he? So we've got to hold him to his word. And you'd hope he would do that, yeah. And it'd be fascinating if he does. I mean, even more so will be obviously Tottenham in the Championship anyway. But I think so. I mean, I don't have any reason to disbelieve him. I'm slightly surprised that he's agreed to that. I think, as Jack says, that they just kept throwing money at him, but also I think they kept throwing control at him. I think he's got more control at Tottenham than he would have expected to have at other clubs. He's going in there as a head coach, but I think he will have quite a lot of say in how the clubs run. Obviously, we know they're going to try and recruit another sporting director, have 2 sporting directors, and basically an old-fashioned manager. Good luck with that. See how that works.
Especially with him.
Especially with him, because obviously that was one of the reasons why he left Brighton, was he wanted more say in the transfer market in particular. I'm a big De Zerbi fan. I'm laughing when he said, like, other coaches saying he's a great coach, but we don't quite know why. I have spoken to coaches about him. They do rate him very highly. Somebody said to me he's the best front foot coach in Europe. As another Premier League manager said to me that the week, and I have reason to believe him. The training is very, very good. Adam Lallana, I've spoken to him myself about it. He talks about him, how good he is as a coach, but also in terms of a person as well. He talked about him being like his big brother. I think he's very intense. I think emotionally it's going to be very, very, very intense for Tottenham. I think that's probably what they need more than somebody going there shouting and screaming at them. I think he will do a bit of that, but I think he will try and galvanise them in a very sort of emotional way, which Tudor didn't do. I think Tudor did go in there and torch the place. I think Frank was too nice and touchy-feely when he was there. So it might, in terms of the emotional side of it, I think that could work for them quite well, because they probably need somebody who's going to actually be that kind of. Yes, he will give them stick and he will give them a hard time, but he'll also put his arm around them as well. I think they'll be part of that.
He'll give them belief, won't he?
He'll give them belief. And I think also, he is very well regarded. So I think they will probably look at him in a more sort of admiring way than they did at Tudor. I think they'll get out of it. I think they'll stay up under him.
But his style and his coaching methods, Martin, will take a bit of time to instil. And that's something Tottenham Hotspur simply haven't got.
Well, no, but it depends whether they work immediately or not. You know, if they don't work immediately, that is a problem, because he's quite wedded to a particular way of playing and particular ideas. And if they don't work immediately, then you really haven't got time for those ideas to settle and bed in and for everyone to get used to it, because there's 7 matches to go until the end of the season. Having said that, he's a very good coach. He should be able to do it. And 5-year contract, there are now consequences, which didn't exist at Tottenham before with Igor Tudor, because he wasn't going to get the job. So Christian Romero could amble back towards the goal, and not put any pressure on there. And everyone was very sort of lackadaisical, and games just dribbled away from them, because this guy ain't going to be around. We'll just wait this guy out. The man's got a 5-year contract. He says he'll manage them in the Championship. So there are now consequences. You can't wait De Zerbi out. He's got a longer contract than you. Most of the players, I would say. So I think that's very important as well. I think Tottenham get out of it. Yeah.
If they do get out of it, as Martin says, what changes need to happen at the club, Jason? I just want to refer you to Alistair Gold's piece in the Daily Star Sunday. He arrives ahead of a summer in which Spurs have already raised their wage ceiling and bigger transfer funds have been promised, could help ease those frustrations. But the club need to remain in the Premier League first. This is something maybe that most Tottenham fans, if not all of them, said, why weren't you doing this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago when Mauricio Pochettino was in charge?
There's an obvious reason for that, isn't it? There's a different guy at the helm then, wasn't there? And we know he wasn't going to do that. I do find it fascinating that a club has let it be known they're going to pay higher wages.
Yeah. It's a brilliant negotiating.
Hell of a negotiating tactic, that, isn't it?
So why are you doing that? Why don't you just do the deals? It's like, we're going to pay high wages. Like if you're going for a new job or something and you're negotiating and the guy says to you, whatever you want, I'll double it. Yeah. It's like, I do find that I do find that quite fascinating. Yeah. But no, there's a different guy, obviously different guy at the helm, different people in charge now. They want to curry favour to a degree with the supporters. Yes, they're right in the sense of obviously they do need to spend more money in the wages and so on. They've got the revenues coming in from the stadium. They have spent quite a lot of money in transfer fees. It's not that they haven't. They just bought badly. And that's what they need to sort out. They just need to sort out that squad and spend the money better. And it's not. I don't think they haven't spent a lot of money. I think the wage bill doesn't need to go up. It's not like they haven't done anything. Obviously, under Pochettino in that window after they got to the Champions League final was a disaster, and lots of reasons for that, but it wasn't right. But since then, they've almost spent too much money in some ways, the way they've done things.
So how much blame is actually attached to the managers that have failed or the people above them?
Both, isn't it? It's both. I mean, I think the club was run in a certain way. It was frustration for a certain number of those managers. What I never understood with Tottenham is you had Pochettino, who is this kind of like a project manager. Obviously was there for a long period of time, developed players, obviously the players that came through and so on. Then you go, right, now we've got to win something. We're going to short circuit everything. We're going to get in Jose Mourinho. We're going to get in Antonio Conte, and it'll be fine. These guys will just work under the way we want to operate, and we'll win everything. Listen, if you're going to bring these guys in, you've got to give them what they want, because otherwise, it's not going to work. And hey presto, it didn't work. So that's the fascination with De Zerbi. Not quite a manager in terms of Conte and Mourinho in terms of winning things, but a manager who's obviously got a bright future ahead of him. He will be demanding in that way. He will be wanting these players signed. He will be wanting higher wages paid. Obviously, he's got the money he wanted out of it. So it's going to be a really interesting summer. I think a big summer for them. Whatever happens, there'll be a lot of upheaval at Tottenham.
What he can also do, which we saw at Brighton, is maybe revive a couple of careers there.
Absolutely,
you've forgotten. You look what he did for Lewis Dunk, got him into the England squad. Worked with Welbeck and always thought about him. Jason Steele, who's now in the England squad. Yep. He thought he was one of the best goalkeepers in Europe. Bombed Robert Sanchez out, put him in and did well there. He lifted up and transformed a lot of players at Brighton, and there'll be a few maybe lost causes at Tottenham that could have a bit of a revival under him. But what they need from him now is not, like you say, it's going to take a while for his patterns and everything to be instilled in this Tottenham squad. They just need his personality now for the next 6 or 7 games. They needed him to be a force of nature and galvanise them.
You say, Martin, Jack says, a force of nature, galvanise the squad. Let's fast forward to next week, because on Friday night, West Ham United are at home to Wolves. Mm-hmm. If West Ham United win that game, then De Zerbi will enter his first game in charge of Tottenham Hotspur with the team in the relegation zone. Psychologically, what can that do to the players especially?
I think it's really big from West Ham's perspective, as much as anything else, because West Ham can't get out of the bottom three. That's been the problem this season, that whatever they do, they can't get out the bottom three. They're winning 2-0 at Chelsea, and everyone's thinking, this is right, here we go, it turns score. They get beat 3-2. There's, they're in the 96th minute, I think, at home to Manchester United. I was there for that game, and again, can't hold on to it. I've never seen a place so flat after that goal went in, because, what can I do to get out? What can we do to get out? So, if West Ham can get out the bottom three, I think it's very big for West Ham, even if the situation is reversed a day or so later. I think that will be a big fillip. And yeah, that's the moment at which everything, what did William Burroughs say at the naked lunch, the moment when everyone sees what's on the end of their fork. And I think that's Tottenham. On that Saturday morning when you wake up and you look at the paper, or you look on, whatever you do, CFAX, it used to be. CFAX, you look on the internet, and you look at the league table and you think, we're in the bottom three. And then it really hits home, and then the pressure becomes so much more intense.
And how impactful can that be on what De Zerbi is trying to do? Because he can say what he wants right now. That team talk suddenly becomes a lot different, doesn't it?
He's got to prepare for that, hasn't he? I mean, he's got to prepare for the fact that, he's going to know. He's going to know by kick-off what the situation is if they're in the bottom three. I mean, it will obviously concentrate minds, you'd hope. I mean, that's what it's got to do. I mean, whether they're in the bottom three now or not, they are in a relegation fight. And if West Ham put them into the bottom three, yes, of course, it raises the pressure on them. Even looking at that table will be weird, won't it? With Tottenham in the bottom three,
with 7 games to go.
Yeah, exactly. It will be weird looking at it, But they've got to get on with it. I mean, they are in the fight. If I'm not a manager, but if you're doing the team talk, you've got to worry about yourselves. If they win their games, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. If they win their games, they've obviously got to start next Sunday away at Sunderland. They can't really sort of dwell on it.
It seems easier said than done, because they haven't actually won in this calendar year so far. But Jack, when the board and those in power at Tottenham Hotspur, maybe at the end of the season, whatever has happened, look back on this season, what's probably the one decision that they'll look back on and think, we should not have done that? Was it the appointment of Frank? Was it the sacking of Frank? Was it the appointment of Tudor?
There's definitely more than one. I think the one thing that Daniel Levy certainly would have done is pull the trigger on Thomas Frank a lot earlier.
Yeah.
And accept that. I think there's not many. There were questions over whether he could make the step up from Brentford and the structure at Brentford, but nobody looked at the Thomas Frank appointment and went, madness, what are they doing?
Absolutely right.
Everyone looked at it and thought, do you know what? He's a manager that has shown at times he can play better football than Brentford did.
Yeah.
He deserves a shot. Yeah. He's a big figurehead. He can lead a club. And there was no connection there, no spark. It was all a bit too big for him. Yeah. He's still clearly a very good manager. They should have realised that mistake earlier.
Do you think they'd be... Hindsight's wonderful, isn't it? But would they be in this particular position had he stayed on?
They could have been, yeah, because it was properly hopeless. I don't think it would have been quite as dramatically bad as it has been, and players just giving up, because, like, to Martin's point, Frank had a proper contract. So they were still playing for their futures under a certain manager then. Whereas Tudor came in, they didn't like him, they didn't have to respect him, they didn't have to listen to him because of the contract he was given, and there was even no thought that if he kept them up, he could earn a permanent contract. That wasn't going to happen. So it probably wouldn't have been quite as bad under Frank, but that doesn't mean they were wrong to sack him. They just did it too late.
My producer, I'm just going to blame him for this. He quite enjoyed putting you guys on the spot ahead of the last break. So if, and apologies to Wolves and Burnley, if they are almost looking like that they're going to go, which team joins them, Martin?
West Ham, until they can get out the bottom three. West Ham.
West Ham or Leeds? I think West Ham.
I think Leeds. I think West Ham will stay up.
OK. All on tape. All will be played back at the end of the season.